Hello and welcome to EV Car Share. I am Matt Smith, as usual. I've not changed my name or anything like that. And today I want to talk about Tesla charging and specifically preconditioning on approach to charging at a Tesla charger. And again, like my other preconditioning video, do you need to, should you, and if you do need to, how are you going to do it? Now, this is specifically for Tesla charge points because there is, there are slight differences with Tesla charge points. They're not ideal for the Kia EV6 or any of the other cars in the range. So we're looking at Ioniq 5 and 6 and the Genesis and any on the eGMP platform, Kia EV9 as well now, that's out. All of those cars are 800 volt architecture, and the Tesla charge points, superchargers, are designed for 400 volt cars. Here in Europe and in the UK where I am, you can charge those cars from Tesla charge points because one of the EU rules was that all cars should have the CCS2 connector. That's the modern version of the CCS connector, and so Tesla cars that are being released these days and also other cars are all CCS2. Everybody's got the same plug, we're all in alignment, everything is great in that respect. So the newer charge points for Tesla, the version 3s and version 4s in the UK here, will have the correct plug. That's the first point. Second point is that only certain ones are open to the public. So we've got the correct plug. It's not designed for our voltage, and also certain ones are not available to the non-Tesla public. So they're available to obviously the public, they're available to Tesla people, but only Tesla people, some of them. So that's the scenario. So it's kind of like if they weren't lower cost, which is the reason you would go to them, then I don't think you'd bother. You'd go, I mean, if all charging was the same price, I think I would use GridServe quite a lot because there's loads of them and they seem to be in great places. And to me, they tend to be quite reliable. I've heard other people complain, but hey, I don't have that problem. Or Fastned are very good. I'm quite impressed with Fastned, but there's not many of them. So unless you happen to be passing one, then you're not going to come across them. But as I mentioned, Tesla, very cheap compared to some of the others, especially in certain places. Although do beware because some of them are also expensive as well. I'm thinking of Francham services on the M5 by Birmingham. Really expensive, especially for a Tesla charge. I don't get it. Anyway, so for one reason or another, you've decided you're going to be using a Tesla charge point. So how do we navigate there? How do we get the battery to precondition as we navigate there? I think for this, we're going to have a look at the nav screen. So that's going to require me to switch cameras. Okay, so here we are with the Sat Nav system. You can see I have 65% battery in my car at the moment. That will equate to 186 miles of range. So what we're going to need to do is choose somewhere we can't get to in order to be able to show what preconditioning would do normally, and also to show how we can deal with Tesla. So I happen to know from previous experience that I can navigate to Bangor on the west side of Wales. It's somewhere I've been to before. And I know that that will be too far to reach with 65% battery. So I can say close. I don't want to search for a station. Here you can see it's given me the most economic route through the middle. That's the one that I normally take. You can go around the outskirts on the motorways if you prefer, which is the fastest route. It will save you, what's that, 16 minutes? But you're going to travel an extra 34 miles. To me, I will save the mileage, thanks. And it's going to be 196 miles direct, and I've got 186 claimed in the battery. And obviously you don't want to arrive with nothing, so it will ask me to charge on this route. I have include charge stations off, so I've said I'm not going to want it to choose charge stations for me, and then I can click actually I won't click start guidance, I will click add tour point because I'm going to add in a tour point. Okay, now if I was going there and choosing something like grid serve, which is in the Sat Nav's memory as a charge point, and it will precondition to that charge point, then let's go through that first. So let's go add tour point. Let's do a search. I know that I will be passing by Kia services on the M6, or I can do. So I'm going to pop in quickly Kia services like that. This will allow me to show you another feature that I found in the Sat Nav quite useful. If I know that I want to stop at Kia services, but I can't remember the brand of charge points, then rather than searching for grid serve Kia services, which would have taken me straight to the grid serve charge points, what I can do is I can search for Kia services like this, but instead of tapping OK here, I can tap on the map. Now you can see the charge points are highlighted on the map here. So rather than going to where I searched for, I can now tap on the charge point, have the arrows direct to the charge point, so it's located that as a charge point. It's brought up at the top what that thing is, and I can see how many are available. Well, that's kind of irrelevant at the moment because I'm a good 100 miles away from there. And I can see the speed of those charge points and where they are and all of that information. If I'm happy with this location now instead of that location, then all I do is I press OK. So it's now added a tour point as the grid serve charge point at Kia, not Kia services just in general. Now if I'd kept it just as Kia services in general, then it would think I'm just popping there maybe for a burger and not wanting to charge, so it wouldn't precondition my battery. But because I've pinpointed the actual charge point, then it will precondition the battery and it will plan to charge there. So if I now go calculate, give it a few moments, it's got to talk to the internet, it now reroutes or
start now. Now turn left and then immediately right.
Okay, so that times out. Let's go back to route options. Once you go back to route options, it doesn't time out. So it talks to the Kia servers and works out what it's going to do. So you can see here now it said that we're going to charge for 20 minutes from 22% to 50%, and then we're going to arrive at Bangor with 16% remaining. So you can see it has added in the charge point as a charge stop. Even though it didn't decide where to charge, I decided where to charge. I searched for the charger and added it myself, but it will still see that as a charge point. So if we have our preconditioning turned on in the settings, when we approach that charge point, it will precondition the battery. Now, it's above 20%. When you drop below 20%, the preconditioning will turn off. So this is actually quite nice. 22% is kind of a good time to charge. Around 20%, a little bit above, a little bit below is quite nice. So that's how it all works. That's how it's supposed to work. But of course with Tesla, which is what I was really focusing on, it doesn't work this way because the Tesla charge points aren't seen in the Sat Nav as charge points. You can search for them, so you can find them, you can search for them, but they are not charge points. So if I go back to add tour point, I take out my grid serve and I go add tour point, search, and then I go, whoops, that's misspelt, double T, Tesla, and I know that Trentham Gardens is the one that I want nearby to that same place. So you can see here it brings up Tesla, Trentham, Stoke-on-Trent. It even has an icon telling you it is a charge point. The software knows that there is a charge point there and that's what it is, but it doesn't know that it's going to be able to charge there, and it can't take that as a charge point. So we can click OK. It's added it in as a location. I can then go calculate, and the difference you'll see here on the map It's going to tell me I can't get to my destination because it doesn't think that I've added a charge point. And it's now telling me I will arrive at that location with 25%. This is a little bit earlier than the grid serve, that's why it's arriving 25, and it was going to the grid serve with 22. But you can see it's not giving me now a final percentage for my destination in Bangor in Wales, and it's not telling me how long I'm going to wait at those charge points and how much I'm going to gain or should charge up to. So a bit of a problem here. It's picked it up as a location. I've been able to add it as a location, but it doesn't know I'm going to charge there, and it won't precondition the battery when I approach. So what can I do about it? Well, what I can do is I can add in the tour point. It's probably in my previous destinations now. Yep, there we go. At Kia Services. So now what I'm doing is I'm telling it I'm going to those Tesla charge points, but I'm also going to a nearby grid serve charge point.
The route guidance will start now. Now turn left and then immediately right.
Thank you. Give it a moment. So you can see it now knows that I'm going to go to that Tesla charge point, so it's going to direct me there. It also thinks I'm going to a grid serve charge point nearby. Now it doesn't have to be a grid serve charge point. You can pick any charge point that's rapid, that's nearby the location of your Tesla one. You can pick one earlier before it if you want, or later after it, like I have. It doesn't really matter. Probably before it is better. Get the battery warm early rather than risking it not getting warm enough. And then what will happen is, because on my approach to this area, so quite a long way beforehand, the battery will start preconditioning. Now it's preconditioning, thinking about my arrival at the second location. Actually, it's my arrival at the first location that I want the battery warm for, but that's not what the car's thinking. The car's thinking I'm just going to precondition for the location that I'm going to be charging at, and that's the one it thinks. Now we're not actually going to end up going there. We will charge at the Tesla charge points. We will ignore or take out the second tour point, and then we'll carry on to our destination as per our plan. So that allows us to have the preconditioning and use the Tesla charging in our route, which is spot on. Now the other question was, do we actually want to do the preconditioning? And I think for that I will switch back to the other camera. So do we want to precondition? I mentioned that the Tesla charge points aren't ideal for the 800 volt architecture. They've not been designed that way. They've been designed for Teslas really, and they're all 400 except for the new Cybertruck, but that's not available in the UK. Maybe it will be, maybe some Teslas in the future will be 800 volt and then things will change. But I'm not predicting the future. I'm talking about the here and the now, what we can do right now. Now, my example I gave you earlier, charging at Trentham Gardens, I actually did that last week. So that's why it kind of comes to mind, and that's why I've done it, because it's familiar with me. So I was coming back from a trip to Liverpool for work, and I needed a quick top up. I charged to 50%, like the example in fact, and that got enough charge in the car to get me home to my home charger, where charging is cheap, even cheaper than Tesla. I mean, I'm probably 7 times cheaper at home than I am Tesla, 10 or 11 times cheaper at home than I am at GridServe. So home is by far the best for me, and I would recommend, if you're having an electric car and you're paying for the electricity, then you have a home charge point or the ability to charge at home. That's much less expensive, especially on the long term. So I arrived at the Tesla charge point. It was, I wouldn't say it was really winter, but it certainly wasn't summer. By the time I got down from Liverpool to Trentham, around Stoke-on-Trent, the the battery in the car was around 12 degrees. Outside temperature was also 12 degrees as it happens. They're not always the same, but they're usually within a degree or two if you've not been charging the battery, if you've just been driving or the car's been sitting. So I arrived with 12-degree battery. Now the optimum is over 25 degrees. So I'm a long way below the optimum. Now if I had plugged into a 350 Ioniq fast ned or Instavolt or GridServe charge point, I don't know why I included Instavolt, just happened to come to mind. I don't think they do 350s, but fast ned, Ioniq and GridServe certainly do. If I plugged into one of their really ultra rapid charge points, I would not have seen the 230 kilowatts that you can get sometimes with this car when it's charging in the ultra rapid form, because the battery was way too cold. However, what happens is the car will limit the charge to the battery based on 5-degree increments. So there is a max charge speed when the battery is optimum, so 25 plus. There is a max charge speed when it's just between 20 and 25, between 15 and 20, between 10 and 15, and so on, down and down. Now the maximum I'm going to get with a Tesla charge point, a supercharger, is 97 kilowatts, because that's all that the supercharger can supply to the car for the 800 volt architecture. It's not capable of supplying the full whack that this car can take. So I'm heading down the M6. I'm thinking, do I precondition, don't I precondition, what shall I do? Now I'm planning on using the Tesla charge point in the first place because it's cheaper. I wasn't in a rush. If I was in a rush, I would have picked somewhere else to charge. I would have gone to a GridServe nearby that I could probably later on in my journey, that I know I can get 350 kilowatt out of. Well, not 350, 230 in this car. So I know I can get a real good fast charge. If I was in a rush, that's what I would have done. And I would have paid the price, because in that case, speed was more important than cost. The fact I've chosen Tesla in the first place means that cost was more important than speed on this occasion. I didn't mind if it was going to be an extra 15-20 minutes on my journey. I needed to go to the toilet anyway, so I was stopping for other purposes. I was going to spend some time doing that. And I was only needing to charge up to 50%, and I was at around 22% battery on arrival at the Tesla charge points anyway. So I wasn't going to be spending a long time, because I was only charging up a small amount. Some of that time was going to be taken up by going to the toilet and things like that. And so speed wasn't in the essence in that occasion. So I decided that I didn't need to precondition, and it would also act as an interesting point to me. How much would I lose from the maximum I could achieve on the Tesla Superchargers, that 97 kilowatt? So I arrived, I plugged in, of course, and now paid. Of course, anytime you plug in, the kilowatts will start very low to start with, and they'll ramp up. They never go straight up. You never get like a corner if you're drawing the graph. You get a slight rise. So it rose, it went through a few numbers, and then it reached 79 kilowatts. 79.80, 79.80, and it kind of hovered around 79.80 kilowatts while that battery temperature was below 15. Once it went up above 15, then I was getting the full 97 that the Tesla charge point can supply. Obviously it was still too cold to go max out on an Ioniq at 200, but it was fast, it was warm enough to then get me full Tesla supercharge point, or full Tesla 800 volt architecture mismatch speed. So really all I was missing was about 10 to 20 kilowatts because my battery was down at 12 degrees, and as soon as it got slightly warm I got the max for that charge point. So really I think I took the right decision on that occasion. No need to precondition. The disadvantage of preconditioning is you end up using some of your kilowatt hours that you've purchased or that you've put into your battery for warming the battery up. So then you have to charge more, and it just costs a little bit more. As I say, if speed is in the essence, then fine. But I kind of think if you're aiming for maximum speed across the country, you wouldn't be picking Tesla anyway. So you probably don't want to precondition, certainly not if the temperature is above 10 degrees when you go into a Tesla charge point. If it's much lower, then yes. So if you're looking for low cost and you're doing a big charge, and obviously in a big charge, say 10 to 90%, that's a lot more kilowatt hours. So the price per kilowatt hour is going to more massively affect your overall cost of that charge. Then yes, maybe you go to a Tesla charge point and you precondition like I've just shown you, by adding in a location that will precondition the battery, and you will get significantly faster speeds, because down at 0 or below 0 degrees it will be very, very slow to get charging. It may not even charge, it may just warm the battery to start with anyway, before it will kick in a charge if the battery is really, really too low. So I think that kind of sums it up. If there's anything that doesn't make sense, or anything you want to add, or extra questions you want to ask, then down in the comments please, that would be great. I can cover anything I've missed or clarify anything that I've said. Obviously, if you've enjoyed this video, like it, and if you seem to enjoy the channel and haven't subscribed yet, then please subscribe. That would be brilliant. So that's it for today. I have been Matt Smith, and this has been EV Car Share, and I'll speak to you next time.